Medieval families survived famines, plagues, and brutal winters without grocery stores or modern agriculture. They fed large families from tiny plots using ingenious techniques that created permanent food security. These 15 forgotten methods prove our ancestors achieved true food independence, while modern families remain dangerously dependent on fragile supply chains. Technique 1. The Three Sisters, Growing System: Native American and Medieval. European farmers developed companion planting that maximized nutrition from minimal space while improving soil fertility naturally. Corn provided natural trellises for climbing beans, while beans fixed atmospheric nitrogen that fertilized both corn and sprawling squash plants below. Squash leaves created living mulch that retained moisture and suppressed weeds, while their prickly stems deterred animal pests. This symbiotic relationship eliminated need for external fertilizers or pest control while producing complete protein combinations essential for family nutrition. Modern families practice monoculture gardening that depletes soil rapidly while requiring expensive chemical inputs. The Three Sisters system creates self-sustaining food production that improves yearly while providing balanced nutrition from integrated plant relationships. Technique 2. Perpetual harvest scheduling. Medieval families achieved continuous food production through succession planting that ensured fresh vegetables throughout growing seasons without seasonal gaps. Instead of planting entire crops simultaneously, they staggered plantings every 2 weeks to maintain steady harvests from spring through fall. Different vegetable varieties matured at varying rates, creating overlapping harvest periods that provided fresh food consistently rather than overwhelming. Abundance followed by scarcity. This technique required understanding crop maturation, timing, and careful planning to coordinate plantings with seasonal changes. Modern gardeners typically plant once per season, creating feast or famine cycles. Perpetual harvest scheduling provides steady nutrition year-round while maximizing garden productivity through efficient space utilization and continuous soil improvement from constant plant coverage. Technique 3. Fermentation. Food preservation. Controlled bacterial fermentation transformed seasonal abundance into year-round nutrition while improving food safety and digestive health through beneficial bacteria cultivation. Medieval families fermented cabbage into sauerkraut, vegetables into pickles, and grains into sourdough that could survive months without spoilage while enhancing nutritional content. Fermentation increased vitamin levels, improved protein digestibility, and created protective acids that prevented harmful bacteria growth. The process required only salt, vegetables, and proper containers while producing probiotic foods that supported family health during vitamin-scarce winter months. Modern families rely on refrigeration and chemical preservatives that provide temporary storage without nutritional enhancement. Fermentation creates permanent food preservation using beneficial bacteria that improve both nutrition and flavor. Technique 4. Solar food. Drying. Some power dehydration. Preserved seasonal abundance without energy consumption while concentrating flavors and nutrition into portable, shelf-stable foods that provided essential nutrition throughout winter months. Medieval families constructed simple wooden frames covered with cloth or wooden slats that concentrated solar heat while protecting food from insects and contamination. Different foods required specific drying techniques and timing that preserved maximum nutritional content while achieving proper moisture levels for safe storage. Properly dried foods could last months while maintaining vitamin and mineral content that sustained family health during fresh food scarcity. Modern families use electric dehydrators that consume energy while providing identical results. Solar drying provides free food preservation using renewable energy that operates independently of electrical grid systems. Technique 5. Wild food integration. Medieval families extended growing seasons and diversified nutrition by incorporating wild edible plants that grew naturally without cultivation or maintenance efforts. Systematic foraging knowledge identified nutritious wild plants like dandelions, plantain, nettle, and wild garlic that provided essential vitamins during periods when cultivated gardens couldn't produce fresh food. Wild food collection required understanding, seasonal availability, proper identification, and sustainable harvesting that ensured continued plant populations for future years. Processing techniques transformed bitter or tough wild plants into palatable, nutritious additions to family meals. Modern families ignore abundant wild nutrition growing naturally around them. Wild food integration provides free, renewable nutrition that supplements cultivated food production while offering emergency food security when gardens fail or stores become unavailable. Technique 6. Seed-saving networks community. Seed sharing created genetic diversity and crop security that ensured planting. Material availability regardless of individual crop failures or economic hardship. Medieval families participated in seed exchanges that preserved multiple varieties of each crop type, while sharing superior genetics that improved overall community food production. Proper seed selection focused on disease resistance, yield, and local adaptation that created crops specifically suited to regional growing conditions. Drying and storage techniques preserve seed viability through winter months, while protecting valuable genetic material from moisture and pest damage. Modern families purchase hybrid seeds annually, creating dependence on seed companies. Seed-saving networks provide food security independence while preserving genetic diversity that commercial agriculture eliminates through standardization. Technique 7. Intensive square foot production, small space gardening techniques, maximized food production from limited areas through careful plant spacing and vertical growing that eliminated wasted space while optimizing yields. Medieval families grew multiple crops in layered systems that utilized available sunlight efficiently, while creating beneficial plant relationships that improved overall productivity. Precise spacing calculations allowed maximum plant density without creating competition that reduced individual plant yields. Vertical supports enabled climbing plants to use three-dimensional space, while ground-level crops utilized lower growing zones. This intensive production provided substantial food yields from areas smaller than modern parking spaces. Modern suburban families have adequate space, but practice inefficient gardening that wastes productive potential. Intensive methods provide complete family nutrition from minimal growing areas. Technique 8. Natural pest management. Chemical-free pest control, using companion plants, beneficial insects, and organic deterrents, protected crops without toxic residues, while maintaining ecological balance that supported long-term garden health. Medieval gardeners planted aromatic herbs that repelled harmful insects, while attracting beneficial predators that controlled pest populations naturally. Physical barriers like ash, circles, and plant-based sprays created pest deterrents without harming beneficial soil organisms or pollinators essential for crop production. Understanding pest life cycles enabled targeted interventions that disrupted harmful insects while protecting beneficial species. Modern agriculture relies on chemical pesticides that create resistant pest populations, while destroying beneficial ecosystems. Natural pest management creates sustainable crop protection, while supporting biodiversity that ensures long-term agricultural productivity and environmental health. Technique 9. Graywater garden systems, household wastewater. Recycling provided plant irrigation that conserved precious water resources, while utilizing nutrients from washing and cooking activities that would otherwise be wasted. Medieval families directed used water from cleaning and food preparation into garden areas where soil filtration cleaned water while providing plant nutrition. Simple drainage systems channeled gray water to thirsty plants without creating sanitation problems or water waste. This recycling reduced freshwater demands while providing consistent plant irrigation during dry periods. When rain could unsupport garden needs, modern households waste thousands of gallons of reusable water daily while purchasing expensive irrigation systems. Graywater systems provide free plant irrigation while reducing household water consumption and creating sustainable resource utilization that benefits both gardens and water conservation. Technique 10. Root cellar storage systems. Underground storage chambers maintained constant temperatures that preserved root vegetables, preserved meats, and dairy products throughout winter months without energy consumption. Medieval families excavated cellars below frost lines where Earth's thermal mass created stable environments between 30 to -40 degrees Fahrenheit, regardless of surface weather conditions. Proper ventilation prevented carbon dioxide buildup, while humidity control maintained optimal storage conditions for different food types. Stone walls provided thermal regulation, while wooden shelving systems organized foods to prevent cross-contamination. Root cellars could preserve potatoes, carrots, apples, and cured meats for 6 months while maintaining nutritional quality. Modern families depend on electric refrigeration that fails during power outages. Root cellars provide permanent food storage using natural thermal regulation that operates independently. Technique 11. Mushroom cultivation logs. Controlled mushroom production using inoculated logs provided protein-rich food that grew in shaded areas. Unsuitable for vegetable cultivation while utilizing waste wood materials that would otherwise decompose uselessly. Medieval families learned to identify and cultivate edible mushroom species that thrived on specific wood types and growing conditions they could control and maintain. Log preparation and mushroom spawning techniques created productive growing systems that generated food for years from single installations. Mushroom harvesting provided fresh protein throughout growing seasons, while dried mushrooms supplied winter nutrition. When other protein sources became scarce, modern families purchase expensive mushrooms, while ignoring simple cultivation techniques that provide renewable protein production. Mushroom logs create sustainable protein sources using waste materials, while maximizing productive use of available growing space. Technique 12. Medicinal herb gardens, dedicated medicine production using healing plants, provided healthcare solutions that addressed common ailments and injuries without depending on external medical supplies or professional treatment that might be unavailable during emergencies. Medieval families cultivated specific herbs with proven medicinal properties like echinacea for immune support, willow bark for pain relief, and plantain for wound healing. Proper harvesting, drying, and preparation techniques preserved therapeutic compounds while creating medicine stockpiles that sustained family health through illness and injury. Knowledge of dosages and applications enabled safe, effective treatment using plant-based remedies. Modern families depend on pharmaceutical supplies that become unavailable during disruptions. Medicinal herb gardens provide renewable healthcare using plants that grow continuously while offering natural treatment alternatives that support long-term family health independence. Technique 13. Rainwater harvesting systems. Water collection infrastructure captured and stored precipitation that provided irrigation during dry periods while reducing dependence on external water sources that might become restricted or contaminated during emergencies. Medieval families constructed simple catchment systems using runoff directed into storage containers that supplied garden watering needs throughout growing seasons. Filtration techniques cleaned collected rainwater, while storage methods prevented mosquito breeding and contamination that could create health hazards. Properly designed systems provided thousands of gallons of irrigation water from modest rainfall amounts. Modern households waste rainwater while purchasing expensive irrigation systems and paying rising water bills. Rainwater harvesting provides free irrigation water while creating water security that ensures garden productivity during drought conditions or water supply restrictions. Technique 14. Perennial food forests, multi-layer food production using trees, shrubs, and ground plants created permanent growing systems that provided nutrition for decades without annual replanting, while improving soil conditions and supporting beneficial wildlife that enhanced overall productivity. Medieval families planted fruit and nut trees as overstory, berry bushes as understory, and herbs as ground cover that utilized vertical growing space efficiently, while creating beneficial plant relationships. Perennial systems required minimal maintenance, once established while providing increasing yields as plants matured and growing conditions improved yearly. Tree crops provided substantial nutrition from minimal space while creating windbreaks and soil improvement. Modern agriculture emphasizes annual crops that require yearly replanting. Perennial food forests create permanent food production systems that improve continuously while providing diverse nutrition from sustainable growing systems. Technique 15. Cooperative resource distribution created food security networks that protected families. During individual crop failures, while maximizing community nutrition through shared abundance and specialized production that provided dietary diversity impossible for individual families, medieval communities coordinated planting schedules to ensure continuous food availability while sharing surpluses that prevented waste and supported families experiencing temporary food shortages. Skill sharing enabled knowledge transfer that improved overall community food production capabilities while preserving essential techniques across generations. Cooperative work arrangements multiplied individual labor effectiveness while creating social bonds that supported community resilience. During difficult periods, modern families practice isolated food production that creates vulnerability during individual failures. Community sharing creates food security networks that protect against individual crop losses, While building social connections essential for long-term survival, these medieval food production techniques represent humanity's most thoroughly tested methods for creating permanent food security, without dependence on industrial agriculture or complex supply chains. Unlike modern food systems that require constant external inputs, medieval methods work with natural processes and local resources that remain available regardless of economic or technological disruptions. The importance lies in their renewable nature. These techniques never become obsolete because they rebased on fundamental biological and ecological principles. Rather than manufactured products that can become unavailable, medieval families faced food challenges identical to modern concerns, providing adequate nutrition for growing families while managing limited resources and unpredictable conditions. Their solutions evolved through countless generations of refinement, creating methods that maximize productivity while minimizing resource requirements and external dependencies. These techniques provide genuine food independence rather than temporary abundance that depends on continuing industrial systems. Understanding medieval food production connects us to proven strategies that sustained human populations through their most challenging periods, offering reliable alternatives to fragile modern food systems that can fail. Comparison to modern systems. Modern food systems emphasize convenience and appearance over nutrition and sustainability, creating temporary abundance that masks fundamental vulnerabilities to disruption and resource depletion. Contemporary agriculture relies heavily on fossil fuel inputs, chemical fertilizers, and global transportation networks that create ongoing dependencies on systems beyond individual control. Industrial farming produces food that travels thousands of miles while depleting soil and requiring constant chemical inputs to maintain productivity. Medieval food production eliminated these dependencies through integrated systems that improved conditions over time, rather than depleting natural resources through extractive practices. While contemporary food systems concentrate production in distant locations, medieval techniques enabled local food security using renewable resources and traditional knowledge. While medieval methods created agricultural systems that became more productive yearly through improved soil conditions, established perennial crops, and accumulated biological capital that supported permanent food production. Where modern agriculture separates crop production from soil health, medieval methods enhanced soil fertility while producing food. The fundamental difference lies in sustainability. Modern agriculture requires increasing inputs to maintain yields. These 15 medieval food production techniques prove that permanent family food security is achievable through renewable methods that work with natural processes rather than fighting them. While modern families depend on complex supply chains and industrial agriculture, medieval techniques provide food independence using local resources and traditional knowledge that never becomes obsolete. The wisdom lies not in rejecting modern conveniences entirely, but in understanding that true food security comes from production capabilities rather than purchasing power. Medieval food techniques offer modern families the foundation for genuine long-term nutrition security. Skills and systems that create ongoing abundance rather than temporary solutions dependent on continuing industrial support. These methods transform food production from expensive dependence into sustainable capability that improves with practice and time. Understanding medieval food production provides ultimate food security. When supply chains fail and stores close, these time-tested methods continue providing family nutrition using renewable resources and accumulated knowledge. Sometimes the oldest solutions really are the most reliable for creating genuine food independence that can sustain families permanently.